Hey guys, it's Dione. You can tell in the title, once again, it's another storytime video. Do I care? Not really. I asked you guys to take a vote over on my Twitter, which is casually Dione. If you don't follow it, hit me up with a follow. I asked you guys to vote for what video you wanted to see next. I got a lot of votes for a 1D story time and a If Troy Sivan Was Siri. You can clearly tell by the title that I'm doing 1D story time, but the Troy one will be out soon. This experience I had with One Direction was a bit crazy. Crazy is to say the least. This story is based around the On the Road Again tour. So 2015, February 20th was my On the Road Again concert in Perth, of course. When I saw One Direction at the Take Me Home tour, I spent a lot of days at the hotel they were staying at. So when I didn't meet them, I was like, you know what? Their next tour, when they come to Perth, I'm going to make it my mission to stay at the hotel. I'm going to fly to Perth. I'm going to get a room at the hotel they're meant to be staying at, and I'm going to meet them. Like, this is going to be my year. I booked return flights to Perth. I actually don't live in Perth, so I live in a town that's about a 10-hour bus drive and like a 7 to 8 hour car journey away. It's just like the middle of nowhere basically. Return flights are really expensive because we're in a regional town. I actually spent $600 on flights so I could get there. The day that I got to Perth was 2 days before the concert. We thought that they'd be coming the next day, so I was like, I'm gonna arrive on the 18th in case they arrive in Perth on the 18th, just to be safe. Hopefully they'll arrive either the 18th or the 19th. I can stalk them, you know, hopefully meet one of them, and then the concert will be on the 20th. So $600 on flights, $800 on a hotel, then my ticket for the concert was $400. Bear in mind, I was in school during this time, so it took a long time for me to earn the, you know, correct amount of money, because I was like to my parents, I don't want you paying for anything. I want this to be me paying for it myself, which it always is when I go to a concert, but sometimes I drive up with them. This time I was like, no, I'm going on my own. I'll be fine. It's cool. I'm staying with people. So this trip cost me a lot, which is why it really annoyed me when I almost died at the concert. Basically, I assumed, like I said, that they were going to arrive a couple of days or a day before the concert. That didn't happen. So it was the night before the 20th. So it was the 19th, that night, the night before the concert. And I was in the hotel and I was shit scared because I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. This wasn't what I planned. When are they going to get here? I don't know what's going on. My plan was to go to the airport for the whole day the next day and then go from the airport to the venue for the concert. That's what I did. I went with a few friends. We went to the airport. There was about 100 fans at one side of the airport and then like 100 fans on the other side of the airport. So my friends and I were quite worried. We had no idea where to wait. The bit that scared us the most was there was news crews there was police there. We were like, well, when are they coming? You know, if there's all these news people there. So we spoke to the news people, and even the news people had no idea when the boys were arriving. Basically, there was this big fenced off area where the planes landed, and we were outside that fenced off area. Then the planes actually arrived at like 4 o'clock. Bear in mind the concert starts at 6. The planes landed, they got off, and then my friends and I were like, crap. Like, so we ran all the way around the airport, probably like a kilometer run, guys, which is a lot for me because I hate running. We ran all the way around to the bit of the airport where their vans were meant to come out. Basically, there was the area where the cars came out and there was a big fence around that area, but it was up, sort of up level, if that makes sense. So I stood on this upper level with my hands on the fence and my head sticking through the fence, like, where are they? Where are they? And we all dead ass thought that they were going to come out and meet us. Anyway, their vans came out and like the windows were up and everything, and the windows were tinted so you could hardly see in them. Like, we could, but it was really hard. The first van went past and I'm pretty sure Harry and Liam were in that first one. I did not see Liam at all, and this made me like, not gonna lie guys, I was like crying because I didn't get to see Liam. The second van like went past and I was waving like mad. My friend Grace was next to me and we were like, oh my god, like waving. And then Niall was in that van and he waved at us and we were like, oh my god, Niall just waved at us, oh my god. We sort of waited for like 10 minutes and then Louis and Zane came out in another van and they just went straight to the venue. So we were like, crap, like let's go. So we got in like this big maxi taxi that was so expensive. I'm not kidding guys, it was $100 just for like a 5-minute drive. Jesus. Keep this in mind, it was a 40-degree day in summer. Australian summer's absolutely disgusting, especially Perth. It gets really muggy, so it's the heat, it's muggy. We didn't really take much water, which was a stupid idea. We hadn't eaten and we'd been there all day. We got straight to the venue. We went and got our like VIP lanyard. Everyone on the ground floor had like a VIP lanyard, so we had to go get that. Waited in the queue to actually get into the venue. So we already missed the first opening act because we spent so much time at the airport waiting for the boys to arrive. So we got in the line, got into the concert, whatever, blah blah blah. And I was with a couple of friends of mine and I was like, oh my god, like we need water, otherwise we're not gonna last this concert. So we went to the van that was selling water. Obviously they didn't accept card. The only cash I had on me was like a couple of $2 coins, I think. So I ended up getting 3 water bottles. One I gave to my friend that I wasn't going to the concert with, but I was like stalking with, if that makes sense. And then I kept the other 2 because I was going to go into the stadium and meet up with the girl that I was going to the concert with. So a water bottle for me and a water bottle for her. We watched the other opening act, chilling, whatever. I met up with my friend, gave her her water bottle. Then the concert started. Basically, when I'm at a concert, I get very excited and overwhelmed and really hot because I'm, you know, jumping around and crying and screaming and, you know, just what most fangirls are like at concerts. Being that this was One Direction, this was probably like 1,000 times more overreactive than I am at most concerts because One Direction are my world. Like, obviously I love everyone else that I love, but One Direction is just like the most important people in my entire life. They came out and they sung Clouds as the first song. I just sort of, I screamed a lot, but then I just sort of stood there and I was like, oh my god, because I was a lot closer than I was at Take Me Home. Like Take Me Home, I was basically right at the back, so I had to watch them on the big screen for the whole concert. On the road again, I was still quite far back, but I could see a lot better and I could sort of see them more, if that makes sense. I can't even explain the feeling, but if you guys relate to this, let me know in the comments. Like when you're at a concert but it doesn't actually feel like they're real, like even though they're right there, you're just like, what? When they started singing the slow songs, obviously I was bawling my eyes out and I was getting really overwhelmed, really drained, really tired. About 3 songs before the encore, Zayn actually like left and walked off stage. The boys were trying to like continue without him and they were singing Girl Almighty and Liam was like, oh, can everyone do this? In the bit that goes like, am I the only believer? You know, Zayn's bit. So we had to do this to try and cover it up because Zayn actually wasn't there and they were just like, they didn't understand what was going on because he just walked off like mid-song. They sung like 2 more songs and then they went off before the encore. The first song of the encore was You and I, which is one of my most favourite One Direction songs and it was the song I was the most excited to see live. I was so excited to see You and I and Better Than Words. When You and I was on, I was like, oh my god, like I really hope Zayn comes back out because the only reason why I wanted to see You and I was because of his high note, you know, he's like, You and I. So, Niall actually came out during like the intro of the song and I'm standing here bawling my eyes out because this is my favourite song. And Niall actually comes out and he's like, guys, I'm really sorry, but Zayn's not coming back for the rest of the concert. Then, me, like, falls on the floor just crying because I was like, this is so unfair. Like, Zayn left in our concert, obviously. I know he's not even in the band anymore, but you guys get what I'm saying. This is February 2015, so I had no idea he was going to be leaving. So I'd worked myself up a lot over Zayn leaving, and I started feeling really dizzy in the last song, which is Best Song Ever. I felt so sick. I felt like I was going to puke. I felt like just really dizzy, like they were blurry, and I was like, I can't process what's happening. Anyway, the concert ended, they left, everyone started rushing out, and my friend found the girl she was with, so she left and I went off with my friends. So we had to catch public transport back to the hotel we were staying at, which was meant to be One Direction's hotel. We're walking along this gravel road, like outside of the venue, walking down to the train station. The girls I was with were talking about the concert and I was talking to them as well, but I started feeling really, like, even more dizzier than I did when I was at the actual concert. I couldn't even see properly, so I couldn't see where I was walking, and I remember being like, oh my god, like, what's going on? Like, my vision just went purely black, and I'd actually passed out on the road. On the road again. I was literally on the road again because I passed out on the road. I'd like fainted and landed on the road. When I sat back up, the girls I was with were like, what just happened? Did you trip over? And I was like, what is going on? Like, I just completely blanked out. I don't understand what just happened. I just automatically started crying because I was like, oh my god, like, this is the worst night. First Zane leaves, we don't meet them, and now I passed out on the road. Like, it's just one of those days. I'm sitting there like, oh my god, I just want to go home, and by home I mean my actual home in Esperance. I was just sick of everything. I was like, I just want to go home. And they were like, well, you can't because your flight's tomorrow. Your flight home is tomorrow, so just last the rest of the night. My friend Lily turns to me and she goes, oh my god, down your knee. And I was like, what? And then I just looked down and I had a big chunk like taken out of my knee because obviously I fell on gravel or concrete or whatever it was. So my knee scraped across the road because I was wearing a dress. My knee was like pouring out with blood and my elbows were bleeding because I'd collapsed like onto the road and sort of slid along, if that makes sense. So we're looking at my leg and we're going, what do we clean this up with? We don't have tissues. Like, who goes to a concert that doesn't take tissues? Us, because it's stupid. Luckily some mums stopped and gave us a couple of tissues, and they gave me some water because obviously I didn't have any water with me because I drank that singular bottle in the concert. Tried to clean up my knee but it just wouldn't stop bleeding, so they just gave me like a big wad of tissues and they were like, this is gonna have to do you until you can get something else. Walking along the road with like my hand leaning down on my knee trying to press tissues on it and like trying to apply pressure. Got on the train, obviously everyone was using the public transport because you're not gonna go and park at the stadium because the traffic is ridiculous. People are just looking at me like makeup all down my face, blood everywhere, like I'm dripping blood while I'm walking, and people are just looking at me like, what is wrong with this girl? So we get back to the hotel. Bear in mind, this is a 5-star hotel. This is like a really, really, really fancy, like Perth's fanciest hotel. We got up to the room and we're looking around for like a first aid kit or something. Like, surely a hotel room has a first aid kit. They did not have a first aid kit, which is just logic because what if someone like dies? So I sat down on the bed. We met up with one of the other girls we were staying with and she was like, oh my god, here, just use toilet paper for now. I got up off of the bed to try and actually go and wash the dirt because I still had dirt in my knee because obviously I'd fallen on gravel, dirt, so you get dirt in your knee. Got off the bed, there was blood on the blanket, and here's my, I start flipping out. I'm crying even more. I'm like, oh my god, this is the most expensive hotel in Perth. Like, they're gonna take the bond away from us. I'm gonna have to pay them like $400. I don't have that kind of money because I just spent it all coming up here and I just spent $200 on merch. Luckily my friend Lauren went and spoke to them and they were like, nah, it's fine, we'll just clean it. She said to them, do you have a first aid kit? And they were like, no, we don't have a first aid kit, and they gave her like 4 band-aids. So we were like, are you kidding me? Like, how is that going to help me when my knee just won't stop bleeding? This has been the worst night in the entire world. Honestly, how could this night get any worse? Packed everything because obviously, like I said, my flight was the next day. We had an hour sleep. I'm not even exaggerating. After this all happened, it would have been about 3 o'clock. We had to sleep for about an hour. We got up at like 4. My friend Lauren and I, because she was going to go to the airport to see the opening act. So she was like, I'll come with you. I think my flight was at like 7:30, 8 o'clock, I can't even remember, but I wanted to be there as early as I could. We spoke to the managers or whatever and we were like, okay, we need to catch a taxi to the airport. Do we call for the taxi or what happens with taxis? And they said, no, we've got taxis out there in the taxi bay. Went and had breakfast, went and grabbed my stuff, and then we left. So we go out the front. There's one taxi there. We go to put our stuff in this taxi and this couple pushes us out of the way. That was the only taxi. So we had to speak to the man there and ask him to order another one. Obviously that took like 20 minutes. So I'm having a panic attack. I'm like, not gonna make it for my flight. Like, Lauren, what do we do? There was nothing we could do because if we called a taxi, it'd be the same amount of time, if not longer. So the taxi arrives, we put our stuff in and we head to the airport. We couldn't see my flight on the display monitor and we were like, what the hell? So we're waiting in this line. We get up to the girl and I was like, oh, I'm here for flight whatever to Esperance. And they were like, well, you're in the wrong terminal. No, because like I arrived at this terminal. That doesn't make sense. Like this is the terminal I got out at. And she said, yeah, that's the terminal you arrive at, but that's not the terminal you leave at. You need to go to the other one. And I was like, well, how far away is the other terminal? And then she says, about 20 minutes. We run, we get into another taxi, get out. I sprint in there with my luggage and we get to the thing and I say to the girl, I'm really sorry, I just went to the wrong terminal. And she goes, oh, is that the flight to Esperance? And I was like, yeah. And she says, you just missed it. We just closed the gate like 30 seconds ago. And I'm just bawling my eyes out because I'm like, all I want to do is go home. This has been such a bad experience for me. I just want to go home. And obviously I can't now because I missed my flight. I was like, is there any way for me to get on that plane? And she goes, no, like we can't, and it's going to cost you about $300 to reschedule your flight. Now I'm breaking down because I'm like, I have $20 in my bank. I physically can't pay for another flight. What am I meant to do? She says, well, you look quite distraught about it, so I'll change it over for free because you're like crying or whatever. And I was like, well, to be honest, that's the least you could do because you don't know what experience I've just had and it's been horrible. So Lauren and I go and sit down and I'm there like crying. Poor Lauren's just sitting there looking at me like, oh my God, like God help this girl. And I call my mum and tell her what happened and she yells at me on the phone for like an hour saying, you know, typical mum stuff, like you've disappointed me. This is showing that you're irresponsible. They changed my flight to the next morning. So I ended up staying at my sister's house, thank God. Obviously I got home the next day. I went on Twitter and I was like, guys, does anyone know what happened with Zayn? Why didn't he stay on for the concert? And everyone said it was because Zayn had gotten really sick. That's why they didn't stay. They were meant to stay at the hotel, but that's why they didn't stay, was because Zayn was really sick. So they ended up just staying in Melbourne where they already were and then flying to Perth afterwards and flying straight out after the concert. So basically I spent the next like 3 weeks having a cry over how 1, I didn't meet One Direction, 2, my leg is killing me, I'm in so much pain, 3, my parents still haven't forgiven me for missing my flight, and 4, I'd missed 2 weeks of school. And I was in year 12, which is the most important year of school. I eventually got over it. Little did we know, like a couple of days later, Zayn Malik has left the band. Like, what? That got me thinking, like, that concert in Perth must have been some form of a trigger for that. It was my birthday 6 days after this concert, so the concert was sort of like my birthday present to myself. At the concert, Harry was like, is it anyone's birthday today? I was like, well, it's not mine, but I'm gonna put my hand up like, dude, it's my birthday in like, you know, 6 days. So my friend and I are yelling and my whole block was like dead silent. People were like, this chick is yelling like crazy. Someone in the front row was like, it's my birthday. It wasn't their birthday. I remember someone telling me after the concert, I know that girl that said it was her birthday and it wasn't actually her birthday. Harry was like, well, let's sing happy birthday to this girl. So all of One Direction, like minus Zayn, because this is when he was off stage, went up to that girl and sang happy birthday to her. And I just remember like being so upset because it was literally like my birthday in 6 days, and I was like, guys, why do you hate me? That's the story of how I almost died at a One Direction concert and how I missed my flight and how my parents hated me for like a month because I was a disappointing child. Obviously worse things have happened, but it was a pretty traumatic experience being from like a small country town where you only have a population of like 15,000 people to going to a city that has a population of like 2 million. It was quite hard for me. The moral of this story was always drink water. If you don't drink water, especially at a concert, you are going to pass out of lack of dehydration. Wait, of lack of dehydration? Of lack of water, aka dehydration. Oh, I can't even talk properly. If you like this video, guys, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to follow me as well on my social media links. They'll be right here or they'll be down in the down bar. And if you're new around here, why not hit that subscribe button so you're notified every time I upload a video, because that's pretty damn cool. Thank you so much for watching. I love you guys so much. I hope you're having an incredible day and I will see you in my next video. Bye!